Coming up, an AEW star slams WWE Crown Jewel, have NXT Takeovers been cancelled for good, and loads more, so subscribe to the channel and enable them notifications to make sure that you never miss an episode.
Support WrestleTalk!
So let's talk about Crown Jewel, not traditionally the jewel in WWE's crown of pay-per-view events, but a real moneymaker for the company, so a jewel in other senses. But yesterday's show went surprisingly well, with some pretty decent matches and the actual right booking decisions in the two tournaments. What's happening, guys? I'm worried now. I don't know why that makes me worried. Anywho, the good decisions don't stop the general stink of the show being involved and funded by a regime responsible for myriad human rights violations. Yay, every cloud has a darker lining. Which was something that an AEW star was keen to point out. Now, this was coming from the Acclaim's Max Caster, who has variously been embroiled in controversies of his own regarding the content of some of his promos, but has still remained an active participant across AEW programming for the last few months. So there is that. At Crown Jewel, a fan sign was spotted dedicated to cultaholics Adam Pacitti, which Adam tweeted a picture of with, "I'll take things I didn't expect to see on WWE Saudi Arabia show for 500, Alex. Thank you." Max then gave the picture a little bit of a touch-up and tweeted his own thing saying, "I'll take things I didn't expect to see on a Blood Money show for 500, Alex. Wow, I guess everyone loves the Acclaimed. The pot has well and truly been stirred." Now, Caster has made no bones in the past about attacking the competition. Last week, he even targeted NXT and SmackDown talent Top Dollar in a rap after Dynamite went off the air. Despite location though, which left something to be desired, Crown Jewel was actually a pretty good show, as I said, with some top quality matches and crowd-pleasing booking. And according to PW Insider, backstage at WWE, people were said to be really thrilled with how the event went, which lines up with the general consensus on social media, Max Caster excluded. In fact, the feeling was that this was one of the better major shows that WWE has aired within the past year, which kind of goes to show what happens when you just go with crowd-pleasing house show style booking over WWE's usual jumble of fudges that it likes to call its pay-per-view booking. PW Insider's Mike Johnson is also reporting that the word going around currently is that the company will now return to Saudi Arabia for another show in 2022. Now, the E has been running these supercard shows since 2018 when they came to the controversial deal with the Saudi General Sport Authority, which have had them put on 2 shows a year and make an absolute smint for each, with the Saudi government reportedly paying $55 million per show. As another bit of background, WWE's activity in Saudi Arabia can be linked to the Saudi Vision 2030 campaign, which the government says is designed to lessen the country's dependence on oil, but is also probably a PR strategy to rehabilitate the country's image. Something that's become known as sports washing, as the Saudi government courts American entertainment and sports brands to make their image look good and more liberal and progressive, while doing a lot of stuff in Yemen. And WWE have used their relationship with Saudi Arabia to make a lot of money, first of all, and as a vector to do some first evers that are A, important milestones in such a traditionally super conservative company, and 2, very good PR strategies when you're the ones profiting from the Saudi regime. Such as putting on women's wrestling matches, something which didn't happen on the first couple of Saudi shows, but the company pushed for and took place for the first time ever at Crown Jewel 2019. Now, this year, there were 2 women's matches on the show. As Zelina Vega toppled Doudrop to win the Queen's Crown tournament, and Becky Lynch beat Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. Lynch proved to be over like Rover with the Riyadh crowd and took to Instagram post-match to thank the fans in attendance, saying, "Tonight was about so much more than a title. I'll set aside my usual trash talk tonight. Thank you to the women I shared the ring with tonight. You pushed me to do better. Thank you to the fans watching at home. Thank you to the incredible fans in Riyadh tonight who cheered so ferociously throughout our whole match and making this first trip to Saudi Arabia so memorable and inspiring so much hope for the future of women around the world. Thank you to the women who have laid the path for us to do what we do." So as always with complex international relationships, there are positives and negatives on both sides of these weird shows that WWE does, because young girls in Saudi Arabia get to watch women wrestle at huge events. That's got to be a major positive. To hop onto more wrestling related thoughts though, surely that means we're going to get this title trade between Chaz and Becky now that Becky is the SmackDown Women's Champion on Raw and Charlotte is the Raw Women's Champion on SmackDown. or they're going to do champion versus champion for both belts at Survivor Series, and we're going to get Becky 2 belts again because you gotta shift those spare t-shirts some way. Now, another woman in that triple threat match at Crown Jewel was Bianca Belair, who has topped a prestigious wrestling list. And it's not one of Adam's. Bianca took the top spot in Pro Wrestling Insider's Women's 500 list after a frankly huge year in WWE. She won the Royal Rumble, she became the SmackDown Women's Champion, she main evented night 1 of WrestleMania, and now she has moved over to Raw as a big name acquisition. The list evaluates stars on the following criteria: in-ring achievements, which is championships, tournaments, win-loss record, influence in one's home promotion and the industry at large, technical ability, breadth and quality of competition, and their activity. And if we're talking technical ability, then all you need to see is this picture of Belair doing a one-armed press from yesterday, and you should rocket her to the top of the list. Well, technically, yesterday's show fell outside the evaluation period, which ran from October 2020 through to September 30th, 2021. Let's talk toys now, as WWE have announced that they have expanded their global partnership with Mattel. The agreement includes exclusive rights for action figures and other related merchandise and has received a multi-year extension. Now, Mattel's WWE Basic Action Figure series is the longest continuous action figure assortment in history, and somewhere in this news, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers are cheering. From toy news to news that makes me want to throw my toys out of the pram, because the future of NXT's Takeover events could be at stake. Because since NXT rebranded to its 2.0 Unicorn Vomit version, there's been little talk of Takeover events, which were usually the shining moments for the brand, where they just put on perfect show after perfect show. But according to PW Insider's Mike Johnson, there are no Takeover events currently scheduled on WWE's internal calendar for the rest of the year. Now, the pinch of salt to that is the promotion actually has only announced one further main roster show for the rest of the year, and that is Survivor Series taking place in Brooklyn on November 21st. And they, in fact, probably reportedly cancelled TLC, and that is being replaced with a reported WWE Day 1 show on New Year's Day. So, no Takeover. There's only 2 months of the year left. There is that, but the last one was in August. I think the fact that WWE currently doesn't have any NXT Takeover events on its internal calendar does make you question whether they intend to hold any more at all. But we should have a better idea of the company's desires regarding takeovers after Halloween Havoc, which is the first network special to air since the rebrand. Let's hop the fence and talk about AEW now, because Tony Khan, a man who has become more and more of a major character for the brand in the last few weeks as he's beefed with Bischoff, competed with the competition and counter-programmed his little socks off to make Dynamite and Rampage must-watch television, has also come up with a catchphrase. Now, in amongst all of Tony bigging up AEW, he also made it clear that if their programming is not for you and WWE is more of your jam, that is perfectly fine by him. You can just watch your wrestling. And that has become the catchphrase for Tony Khan. We would say you can just jam your jam. You can jam your jam. And it's definitely going to be a catchphrase for him now, because the company has moved to trademark the phrase. On October the 18th, AEW filed to trademark both YWY and Watch Your Wrestling with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, getting them secured for educational and entertainment services, namely a continuing program about wrestling accessible by radio, television, satellite, audio, video, and computer networks. So expect that now to be popping up across a lot more AEW programming, and I'm expecting a little YWY armband to remind you to watch your own wrestling. Finally, a little update for tonight's Rampage episode, where Andrade El Idolo is set to take on Pac in a rematch following Andrade besting the Bastard with the help of Chavo Guerrero Jr. Now, thanking to Twitter, the company announced a little additional stipulation to the match, saying that Andrade El Idolo and Pac wrestled an instant classic bout last month before Chavo interfered to cost Pac the match. Tony Khan has banned everyone from ringside for the duration of their much anticipated rematch tomorrow night on Rampage. Which means, of course, we are going to get a clear winner of this contest. Yeah. Or it's all going to be a great big setup for a run-in spot. I think what you've got to ask yourself is which booking is more WCW-like, and that is what's going to happen. There's going to be interference.
Okay,
let's break that down.
let's break that down.
Yeah.
Can I give you a few negatives first?
Go. Why not? There aren't enough of those in the world.
No, and I appreciate that this is a very silly thing and trite thing to say, considering that I'm really excited for the, I believe, 12th Spider-Man movie we've had in 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that Batman movie before.
Sure.